I'm Catherine McLean, founder and CEO of Dill & Green, and today I have with me Jessica Lawrence-Vaca, CCO from Array Technologies. She was walking down the street in Reston, and I asked her if she'd come in and talk to me. Sort of like Mr. Rogers or something.
Yeah, just like that. Just happened just like that.
So thanks for joining me. Can you introduce yourself and share a bit more about your role at Array Technologies, as well as what makes the company a leader in solar tracking for those who are not familiar?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. And I know that we've been trying to schedule this for a while, so I was really excited to be able to make this happen. And I love doing things that are close to home. So,
Yes.
we
have so many amazing people in the area.
I know. I feel like I'm constantly flying places to get to things. So it was great to be able to just like hop in my car and do this. I joined Array a year and 3 months ago, I guess, in January of 24. Came from Solve Energy. And I lead the policy, ESG, marketing and comms and community relations teams. And then I'm also working on our customer-centered commercial strategy that we're running throughout the business.
Okay.
And so I'm just really excited about this role. As you mentioned, we're a leading global tracker solutions provider. We have our headquarters in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and our kind of administrative headquarters in Phoenix, Arizona, Chandler, and have footprint all over the globe, Brazil, the UK, Spain, and now in the Middle East. And so are just, really excited about the expansion opportunities that the tracking provides to really enhance energy production.
Great. It sounds like some fun places to go visit as well.
I was really focused on the US this last year, and now I'm excited to start kind of, doing more work and focusing on our global operations. So I'm excited about that.
You started as a legislative correspondent in the Senate and later became senior foreign policy advisor to the House Foreign Affairs Committee, drafting speeches for hearings with high-ranking officials like Secretaries of State Condoleezza Rice and Hillary Clinton. How did you eventually make your way into clean energy?
So I actually had one role before that just is not on my LinkedIn because that would make 25 too many things.
Yeah.
But I actually started as a staff assistant answering phones in a congressman's office from New Jersey and I actually recently posted about it on LinkedIn. It was funny. I did a meeting on Capitol Hill about a month ago in the same office that I started in. So
oh my God,
funny.
full circle
moment. And so my background was in political science. I was always really interested in international affairs. I met Madeleine Albright when I was a senior in high school, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like I want to do something like that. So I worked on Capitol Hill. I worked for a member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee where, for him, he was focused on Asia Pacific, Latin America, Europe. And so whenever, I'd write opening statements and draft questions and all sorts of different things like that. And then I left to go to the lobbying world. So I was at a lobbying firm called the Podesta Group for 6 years. And worked on a bunch of different projects, was still mostly focused on foreign policy, foreign governments. Worked for a bunch of, it's in national security, so I worked for a bunch of defense, top 100 defense companies, doing lobbying work. And back in 2011, I guess, this, first solar trade case, AD/CVD, against Chinese modules and Chinese cells came about. And SEIA at the time, the trade association, did not want to take a position. And so a bunch of the trade association companies said, we're going to start a separate organization to advocate against these, against this, AD/CVD filing. Right. And so they said, oh, Jessica, you do kind of foreign policy trade stuff. Why don't you work on that? I was like, okay. So I got put on that team, and it was a lobbying and comms play. And so I worked with actually some big names in the industry on that first on that first case, Jigger Shaw was one of the original founders, Helena Kimball, who was at Yingli at the time, George Hirschman, who was at Swinnerton, now Solve. So we worked with them on putting together all the messaging, website, landing page, lobbying strategy. And so that turned into a, one case, and then we got hired again for the next case. And then I hung out my own shingle and went out to go out on my own lobbying. And one of the people that I reached out to was George and said, hey, I've hung out my own shingle. If there's anything I can do to help, let me know. And he emailed me the following week and he said, hey, the 201 just got launched under the last Trump administration. And I can't be in DC all the time. Like, can I hire you to help me? And I was like, you sure can. So
that's so funny. I didn't realize how you all had I know you all go back a long ways. That's so funny.
Yeah. So we go all the way. We go all the way back really far. Yeah. It's, I've been around for a while. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Yet only in your early 20s.
Yeah, something like that. Don't pay attention to the wrinkles on my forehead.
All right, let's talk about New Mexico. You previously worked on the IRA and the 45X manufacturing tax credits, and then came to work for ATI, which is leveraging these to build a manufacturing facility in New Mexico. Can you share more about this facility and why it's significant?
Yeah, absolutely. Super excited about it. We did a groundbreaking in April of last year, so coming up on a year ago, that actually Jennifer Granholm, the former Secretary of Energy, was there, and both senators. And really, it's just, we've been, we're homegrown in Albuquerque. We've been there for 35 years. We just thought that, we needed new space, we needed new manufacturing equipment if we're really going to grow and expand the way that we want to. And of course, with the 45X tax credits, I mean, it just is really a no-brainer. So we invested $50 million in a new facility, staying in Albuquerque, keeping our existing workforce, and then growing. We think we're going to grow to at least 300 people. We'll have lines in there to do manufacturing with both steel and aluminum, which we're super excited about. And it basically is just going to be able to really up and expand our offerings and allow us to continue to commit to that community where we've served for so long. So we're really excited about it. And, we've been at least 70%, if not 75, 80% of our manufacturing supply chain, has been in the U.S. since before it was cool. So even before IRA, and 45X, we were, very heavily, predominantly U.S. manufactured. So this just provides us an opportunity to expand even more. And we hope to be, or we plan to be 100% domestic content, ready to provide, for all of our customers by the end of the first half of the year. So July-ish. Yeah. Wow,
that's really great. I didn't realize that. The next thing I want to talk about, company that I really love, Lightsource BP, and the name of a project I probably love even more, the Honeysuckle project. Like, how does that not make you smile?
Yay.
I feel like this has Alyssa Edwards written all over it.
It does have Alyssa.
She's just one of those people that makes me smile. So Lightsource BP's 188 megawatt Honeysuckle project in the Midwest uses your technology, or array solar tracking technology. Recently reached commercial operation. Can you talk about why this project is significant, including about how it supports the Made in America supply chain?
So I'm just so excited about this project. We just, Alyssa and I were chatting one day, and we were talking about, really the need to continue to just amplify this American supply chain and American made manufacturing narrative. I think particularly now it's so important to be talking about, and singing the praises of the things that are happening right now and all of these jobs that are out there. So I said, hey, we're finishing up this project with you guys. Did you know that the torque tubes for your project, which is really close to South Bend, Indiana, were made 10 miles down the road from your project? And she was like, oh my gosh, that's great. And it was, a local union job. So we basically decided that we were gonna, work with them to get a camera crew out there and just really talk about and tell that story. So you can go look on our LinkedIn page, our YouTube. I think Lightsource BP is promoted as well. We did a video where with Lock Joint Tube, who manufactured, who's like a 100+ year old business in South Bend and is one of the largest employers in South Bend, Indiana. And that's where the tube was manufactured. And, just wanted to do a video with them to talk about like the importance of that ecosystem. Yeah. Also with the Economic Development Council, using the labor from the local unions and training the local unions, because it was one of the first of its kind in that area. And it's also a pollinator. Yeah. A pollinator site, so it's just hence honeysuckle. So I think it's just one of those things that's so exciting.
Like a feel-good story.
It's a feel-good story, and it's like, okay, well, here's the solar site, but like let's just go down the waterfall of like all the people that it touches, and to be able to tell the story, and have Kevin, the CEO of Lockjoint, tell the story of what it means to be able to work in his community and manufacture tubes that are going on a site in his community to generate renewable energy. I just think it's an awesome thing to be sharing that, solar is really making impacts in those communities and generating more jobs than what is just there on the ground in the solar site. So
that's great. I don't really want to talk about this next topic.
We can just touch on it quietly.
The effects of the election. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on why you are or not concerned about, especially if you're not concerned, about the Trump's presidency for our industry. For example, you've noted that our industry actually grew quite a bit during the prior Trump administration. So give me some positive stuff.
It did grow a lot during the prior Trump administration. But listen, I in all things I try and be positive. Yeah. And, as I was just talking about Honeysuckle, like I'm trying to find ways to tell the story of renewables and manufacturing and jobs and how it's impacting these communities in rural America. Like that's what we need to be talking about. Right. And obviously we have, tariffs and discussions about, IRA and repeal and, tax extension and all sorts of different things. And so for me as a manufacturer and coming from an EPC before, I think those are the two like main drivers here is, leading with manufacturing and leading with the construction jobs and saying, look we have had, I think it's $25 billion in investment, 100 facilities that have either been announced or that are under construction or opened, 29,000 new jobs. 80% of that is in red states. Yep. So I think we just need to keep talking about that and talking to the members about this impacting their communities. And, do I worry that, that there's going to be things that are going to be cut? Will we have, will there be sunsets or things like that? Yes, I'm worried about all those things, but, the technology is there. You can't argue with the fact that it's the cheapest and the fastest to deploy. And then, if I go back and put my national security, economic security hat on, we're on a collision course right now with not having enough electricity generation. Right. Like it's a very real thing between AI and data centers, the reshoring of all this manufacturing that we've been talking about, the electrification of all of these manufacturing facilities and transportation and all of these different things.
The energy has to come from somewhere.
Energy has to come from somewhere. And there's been some great reports that have been released recently. Brattle and Conserve America just released a report, and they said between now and 2030, we need a bridge to get from here to there. And renewables are the fastest and cheapest to deploy. Right. I think for natural gas plants, new natural gas plants that are coming online, I think there's 3 that are, in construction over the next, 5 years. Yeah. That's not even considering nuclear, modular nuclear, which I have, I think there's all sorts of like concerns that people have around that. But, just just looking at the next 5 years where we need, significant multiplier of electricity of what we have now. I think we need to be solutions oriented, and I think providing solutions and telling the good story is how I'm trying to remain optimistic. Yeah. So that's where I am right now.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what happens, obviously, because especially by the time this airs, there will be a decision, right? It's going to happen in the next couple of months around what the IRA is going to
I think
be left.
I think we might have a little bit more time. I think, that the Speaker Johnson wants to have a decision by Memorial Day. I think that's incredibly aggressive. They only have, I think, 18 days that they're actually in session between now and Memorial Day. Okay. So I think we're looking at, best case is probably by August recess, but really the backstop is December 31st when TCJA expires. Right. So I think somewhere between August recess and Christmas is really when we are probably going to see something rounding out. Okay. If I have my crystal ball. Okay.
That sounds good. I know you're a mom of 4, and I'm about to be a mom of 4. Because I have 4 boys. Yes. 4 boys. We could start a basketball
And you're going to
team.
have bonus kids, and I have bonus
kids. Yeah. We love bonus kids. And we love boys.
Yeah, boys. Boy
moms. You've been vocal about the challenges of balancing work and family life. What advice do you have for other parents managing similar struggles demanding clean energy careers?
You can't do everything well all at the same time. Just not possible. And so I feel like you have to get comfortable with, I'm probably a bit of a perfectionist and a little OCD on some things. And I think we probably share a little bit of that.
Are you Virgo?
I'm not a Leo.
Okay.
But, I feel, I try and communicate with my kids as much as possible. I try and be there when it really matters. I feel like when I'm home, because most of my work takes when I'm doing a lot of work on the road. Like when I'm at home, I actually can work at home, right? And be there in the morning, be there in the evening, and I try and be as uber present as possible as I can during those times, right? And I miss them horribly when I'm gone, and they miss me. At least I hope they miss me when I'm gone, but. I think just, having a partner who is tremendously helpful in all of those things, and who has basically gotten to the point, because I was managing, before I took this job, I was, I would kind of still manage schedule even when I was on the road and things like that. Right. And we've gotten to the point where my husband's like, okay, I've got it. You need to butt out. I'll handle it. So I think having a really strong, helpful partner is probably the only way that we get through, making sure that you stay connected with your family and your kids. And just I crawl into bed with my son every night, and I'm like, okay, what's the gossip at school today? Tell me what's going on. Right. And also being really, intentional and, very, I try and guard my time really well. I have, I work with people who are on the West Coast. And so from 6 to 8 p.m. here, my calendar's blocked. Don't mess with that time. That's when I'm cooking dinner, or we're, eating. I'm putting my kids to bed. Leave me alone. And I'm going to reject meetings during that time period unless it's super important. Right. Because that's my time. That's my family time, and I need that. Right. So I guess I just try and be comfortable with the discomfort of not maybe doing everything well all the time, and just trying to be intentional and really showing up when it matters. But I feel like anybody who says that you can do it all and have it all at the same time is full of crap. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it also, I'm curious. I was talking to somebody about this earlier this week about, how their kids are proud of what she's doing, right? Yeah. So that we're also doing good work, right? Yeah. So I wonder if they realize that. They're a little older, your kids, so maybe they do realize that, or
a
little older than mine is what I
Yeah.
mean, like 6.
Yeah, I mean, they understand what I'm doing. You know, they're not on social media, so they're not seeing like, you know, any of like that type of stuff, virtual like posting or anything. But I mean, I tell them all the time that I'm doing what I do so that they can have a better future and a better planet, because I think it really matters.
Right.
And that, you know, that's why I'm away. It's a little bit existential for them sometimes. It's kind of like, okay, like, you know, but I need you right now.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think my older boys, who are 19, almost 20, and 16, like, I think that they definitely get it a little bit more. And I asked my 16-year-old the other day, I was like, do you understand what I do? And he's like, I mean, I think you work for like a solar company or something. But, you know, I'm looking forward to actually kind of maybe being able this summer to bring some of them, you know, on trips or to events to kind of actually see more what it looks like.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Because I think it's like, you know, my mom worked, my husband's mom worked, and was actually a total like, you know, badass, like ahead of her time. And so I want them to see. And of course, you know, I don't judge like anybody for whatever choices, you know, women that they make, you know, work, stay at home, whatever. But I just want them to see what a woman, like, you know, standing in her like power, doing what she wants to do, whatever that is. And like, and then having a strong partner, like what that looks like. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
Especially raising boys, because they need to see that.
I was just thinking that, and I was going to drop it. But
how do you do that for your son?
Yeah, I was thinking that because I think it's also, when raising boys, it shows them, you know, how to treat a woman, how to respect a woman, like, you know, the value and worth of a woman. And I don't think he really understands what I do at this stage. I think he thinks it's cool that his name's on everything. At first he was really confused. He'd look at my computer and be like, why is my name on everything? But yeah, I mean, you know, you hope when they get older that they're proud of you, you know, that you are making a difference. So
yeah, I mean, I think that they definitely understand, and they know that I get to go cool places sometimes. And, you know, a couple weeks ago I was in Phoenix and I got tickets for, you know, folks on my team and some customers to go to Dodgers spring training. And my son was like, that's totally not cool, Mom. I can't believe that you're going without us. I can't believe that you got to see Ohtani play. And, you know, so sometimes there's stuff that they're, you know, a little bit like, why are you doing that without me?
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to a time when I can kind of start like bringing them along for the ride to see. But I just think it's important for them to like see us doing what we love and being respected by our partners and having a partnership. And, you know, I want them to want that for themselves too.
Sure. Yep. Yeah, Dylan's bummed he's not going to Vegas this year. Because he's hit the age where, you know, you can't. I could take him a couple years ago when he was a little one, but now he's in like proper school. Like, I'm not going to just pull him out, you know, 1 week after he started, which is when I requested. So I want to talk next about mentorship, because I know mentorship can be crucial for growth, particularly in leadership roles. How has mentorship influenced your journey, and do you have any mentors currently in the clean energy space?
I was actually just talking to one of my colleagues about this earlier today, because he was interviewing me for an MBA project that he was doing, which was cool. And he asked me about like mentorship, and I said, like, honestly, until the last couple of years, I haven't, you know, I have had kind of informal mentors, and I would say most of them have been men. I actually didn't have very positive experiences. I don't know about you, with like female leaders or female bosses. And it wasn't until I came into the solar industry, and even here, like, you know, my CEOs have all been men and have been, I think, really influential on me and getting, you know, me more interested in business by just sitting and talking to me about like how things work, how this happens, how that happens, how transactions happen, how, you know, finance works, how this deal is done. Right. And so I feel like I just sat and listened a lot, and I was just interested and curious. But it wasn't until the last couple of years, meeting one of our mutual good friends, Abby Hopper, and I would say, a number of other women in the clean energy space, Amanda Smith with AES, Erica Dahl. There's several women, Stephanie Dohn from McCarthy, I feel like, who, I don't know if it's necessarily like mentorship, but almost like camaraderie.
Yeah.
But still like somebody that, who's willing to call you out and be like, hey, you could have thought about doing this differently, or that you can call and be like, I am really struggling with this right now. I just needed to tell somebody.
Yeah.
I was on a plane last week actually going to InfoCast, and I had just put my family on a plane, and I'd been on the road for 2 weeks, and I was going to Phoenix to speak at this conference and then going home. And I just had like all this anxiety for a minute. And I was like, I haven't had that for a while. Like, why do I feel like I have an elephant sitting on my chest? And I texted Abby and I said, I'm going to InfoCast right now. I've been on the road for 2 weeks. I'm tired. I like don't want to be going anywhere. And I just needed to tell somebody. And she was like, I'm so sorry. Like, thank you for telling me. I'm going to be there tomorrow. Like, let's have lunch.
Yeah.
And it's like, I immediately felt better. And so I think having a group of women, or a group of people just generally that you can reach out to and bounce ideas off of, who are able to like hear your truth, has been really important to me. And that I can just be very honest and authentic with, and like there's no judgment. And I think that's been really, because I feel like for a long time I just kind of like, it was my backpack, like I just like added more like proverbial crap into the backpack and then carried it, and it got to the point where it got so weighed down that you're like, oh my gosh, I'm just like, I don't know what to do with all this. And so I think kind of post COVID and in, some kind of more leadership roles, it's been great, adding some people who are willing to like help carry that backpack sometimes.
Right.
And I've been, and I think mentorship is also really really important, but I think it's also really hard sometimes because, again, we're talking about like, we have kids and families and work and travel and all of these things. And I want to talk to more people, and I want to like mentor more people, and want to actually, Elizabeth Kaiga and I were just talking about this. She's like, it just takes so much time and energy, and I don't want to say no to people. And so I think I've also, she and I were both talking about how we've been talking to people and then maybe like not passing them off, but saying, hey, can I introduce you to this person who might be able to like, share the load a little bit. And just trying to help, women in particular create these networks so that you have like your personal advisory board. Or your personal like, backpack carrier supporters.
Some roll off the tongue.
Like help carrying that, help carrying that burden. So, but yeah, honestly, I don't know about you, but I've had like actually a lot of men in my career that have been really invested in my growth and, and opportunities. And I love to see the shift now that I feel like women are actually like kind of come over the hump of more like supporting women as opposed to like, no, this is my seat at the table. It's not yours. Cause I ran into that a lot.
Yeah, I know. I totally agree with you. I think, I don't know where where it stops, like what generation to the next, but I do feel like the generation before me doesn't seem, and there's obviously exceptions, but I think our generation seems, to be more, to acknowledge more that it's important. My challenge with it has been the formalization. Because I am not a formal person. As everyone knows. And so I totally agree. I've created this incredible, and I am creating this incredible network of women who I help, that they help me, we help each other. But it's not formal.
Yeah.
And so I think that's some of the challenge when a younger person will say, I want you to be my mentor. I'm like, but I don't know anything about you.
Yeah.
Like that comes with time. It's organic.
Exactly. And we had, when I was at my previous company, we started a more formal mentoring program because there were a lot of people who were either new to the industry or new to the organization and like kind of needed a buddy and who needed, and we didn't have at the time like kind of formal management or leadership training. They do now, but I still talk to the woman that I was mentoring, and I called her actually a couple of weeks ago and I said, hey, we haven't caught up for a long time. Like, we're at different companies now, but she became a friend, and there was a lot that was going on at the time. And, I would just try and kind of listen to, how she was approaching things or what was going on, and to say, hey, can I offer you a perspective? Like, what if you thought about it this way?
Yeah.
Or, it might behoove you to like think about approaching this person in that way.
Right.
And I feel like even just as a sounding board, so that you can like, you're not missing the forest for the trees.
Yeah.
So I think in companies, like having that more formal process is good sometimes, just to expose people to other parts of the business. But I think in, like you're saying, in, industry wide, I think it's great to like meet people. But I feel like it would be very strange if somebody was like, Jessica, I want you to formally mentor me. It's like,
what is interesting about the comment you made about how a lot of the time in your career, men have been the ones that have been mentors. I have personally found diverse men in particular have been the, I wouldn't even say mentors, but like advocates for me.
Mm-hmm.
So, have stood up for me and fought for me. Perhaps because they could identify with maybe some of what I was going through. But when I look back, I always think that was so interesting. I had never thought about it at the time until I got older and reflected on it.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's super interesting. I'm like sitting here thinking about that, and I would say that it's been for sure both. I've had plenty of white males as mentors and who have supported me, but also for sure men of color. Like there's definitely been some that I still talk to this day that have been like great advocates of mine.
You've not only entered the clean energy industry, but have excelled in leadership positions.
Mm-hmm.
What advice can you offer to women aspiring to follow a similar path, aside from seeking mentorship, which we've just discussed?
I think, be curious. I mean, two things I would say, just, intellectual curiosity is super important. We constantly, asking people, tell me more about that. Can I sit in on that? Can I learn more about that? My colleague that I was talking to earlier, he said, you took a very, on like non-linear path, going from doing more policy and marketing to going into more of the commercial space. I spent a lot of time with my previous CEO and my current CEO, just again, listening to, how the business works, how it operates, what they're thinking about, what's most important. I think asking for opportunities, not being afraid to ask for opportunities, not being afraid to ask for a seat at the table,
right?
Not being afraid to be creative, to think outside the box.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say that all of those are incredibly important things. And then from a leadership perspective, somebody who wants to, move up and manage people, I think caring about people. I'm an empath by nature. And I was just listening actually on the way here to a podcast by Simon Sinek, where he's interviewing one of his friends who recently retired from the Air Force, who's a woman, and talking about like her leadership journey.
Right.
And I think thinking about, the leadership qualities that are sometimes more, are females better leaders? I don't necessarily know, but are some of the female qualities or what we would consider to be, you know, some of the soft qualities or the female qualities in leadership important. Yes, and there's plenty of data and studies out there from, you know, Harvard Business Review and all sorts of different things that talk about the importance of, you know, caring about your people, caring about your customers.
Right.
If I could tell you right now, like my, you know, top like 7 or 8 or EPC customers, like how many kids they have, their wives' names, you know, like probably where they went on vacation recently, like just, you know, because we talk, like, you know, when I talk to folks about, you know, tell me what's going on in your life, like what's been going on recently. And, you know, people connect with people. And I think, you know, data is important, making fact-based decisions is important, but also listening to your people, taking care of your people, taking care of your customers who are your people, listening to them. I think that is really critical in order to kind of move up in leadership. And sometimes you can't always like take care of people's needs, but sometimes just listening is important.
Right. Sometimes listening is enough.
Sometimes listening is enough. Sometimes people just need to be heard. And it might take time and it expends a lot of energy. Yeah. But it's a lot easier. I mean, you know, in my journey this past year, I was, you know, working with our sales team and worked on a sales transformation after our last CRO left and before our new one came in. And, you know, we had a sales team that they needed more people. They were, you know, overworked. There was not like always clear goals and instructions and guidance. And there was one day where in trying to get them from here to there on something, I called each of them up and I probably spent, you know, with 7 people, an hour on the phone each. So my entire day talking to them about like, tell me what I need to know, like what's working, what's not working, how can I support you, what does the company need to know, what are you struggling with? And by the end, it's like, okay, we started here and we got to here, but they just needed to feel heard.
And then it probably made you better equipped to find the next CRO.
Yes.
Because you knew exactly what you were dealing with.
And now that he's there, Darren, who is great, and we have a great relationship because I've been able to help and say, like, here's the insights that I've gathered. And here's, you know, and I want to help you be successful and help us be successful in turn. And so, you know, I think that never underestimate like the people qualities of, you know, just trying to listen and make people's lives better and hearing them. And I think, you know, starting out as, you know, in Congress working with constituents and then working as a lobbyist, working with clients. I mean, you're in the people business. You're trying to help people and you're trying to, you know, advocate on their behalf and really understand what their needs are. And so I feel like it translates into leadership, it translates into business, it translates into life. Right. I mean, you know, you have boys, like boys have a lot of feelings.
They do have a lot of feelings.
About a lot of things.
And my son still cries when I go to, I go out at night. Yeah. It's crazy.
But I mean, I think, you know, it's funny having, you know, worked in fairly male-dominated environments in defense and construction, manufacturing, renewables, which I think has gotten a lot better. But for a while it was pretty bro-y. But I have also 4 boys and a husband. And like, I feel like that has prepared me pretty well, both ways to deal in male-dominated environments.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's interesting. I definitely think, though, like on the developer side, we've made strides. I don't know on the manufacturing. You know, I've been spending more time on the manufacturing side, and it's you know, going to some of these events, and I think there's still some yards to make. But
yes,
that's why I appreciate even more what you do, because you know it is even more challenging, I think, in that space than working for like an IPP or something. So.
Yeah, I mean, it was very interesting. I remember at Solve when I was going through leadership training, and we had DEI training, and you know, one day, you know, trying to work through, and one of the construction guys was there and was like, you know, it's command and control out there on the projects. Like, you're dealing with people that that just understand, like, that this is the job that needs to get done, and you have to be firm with them. And I said, okay, I mean, but this isn't just about that. It's also, what happens if somebody's late to work one day because their, kid is sick and has to go to the doctor, and so they're super stressed out? Or what happens if somebody's, husband or wife, like, has a long-term illness? Or what happens if somebody behind the scenes is, like, caring for an elderly parent who's in memory care? Like, this is also about, like, just having that, like, slightly extra emotional intelligence to understand that, like, something's happening always behind the scenes. And that was, like, this, like, aha moment for, this construction guy who's like, oh, I guess I hadn't really thought about it that way. And so I feel like, we make strides here and there.
Inches eventually your two yards. Well, thanks for taking the time to speak with me today. I'm glad we finally made this happen.
I'm so glad. This was great. Thank you so much for having me. And I love being in this Dohn green space. It's awesome.
Thank you.